I was playing music in a bunch of bands, and we were going to go on tour, and we decided that rather than try and paying all our show money to the oil companies, we'd rather spend it on more useful things.
Getting ready to go to college, and I was going to be commuting for a little bit, and so I was looking for some type of alternative, something that wasn't conventional gasoline, and vegetable oil seemed to be the most feasible alternative.
And it seemed like an economical and environmentally friendly way to travel, so I bought a van and a conversion kit.
It required initial investment, but after that, the prospects of collecting free vegetable oil and filtering it out and driving on a renewable fuel seemed pretty great. So that was the route that I went, and everybody thought that I was crazy because no one had really heard of it, no one had really seen it being done before.
Then, since it was a very new thing at that time in 2003, there would be people in town or my friends who would get cars, and they'd be like, "Oh, you know how to do it since you did it once. Please, help me out." And so I'd help them or put together parts and stuff. And then I met Colin. We kind of talked about how there were certain parts that we liked better than others, and we decided to put together our own kits.
As we began learning and teaching ourselves about cars, we began understanding the shortcomings of the way that everyone else was doing it. So we decided that we'd take what they had and then we'd build upon it, and that's what we started doing initially, and that was still before we had a business. And then as we realized there's not even a point to take something that's not good to begin with and then make it better, we should just start from the ground up and create something that's good.
So we actually got an official shop, and then we started building our own components from scratch when we couldn't find adequate ones that worked well.
In order to be utilized as a fuel, vegetable oil needs to be thinned out. This can be done either chemically or mechanically. In the chemical process, vegetable oil is combined with lye and methanol in a process called transesterification. The result is a thinner fuel, biodiesel, which can be used in any diesel engine. The only other byproduct is glycerol, which is the main ingredient in soap. In the mechanical process, you simply heat the vegetable oil until it reaches the proper viscosity. Fossil Free Fuels sells and helps install conversion kits that work on this principle, allowing cars to run on straight vegetable oil, or SVO. There's a second fuel tank, another fuel line, and a fuel filter for the vegetable oil, all of which are heated, and a final heat exchange before the vegetable oil is injected into the engine. The vegetable oil picks up heat along this entire path using coolant from the engine. In order for the heat to be generated, the engine has to be running. So it starts on diesel fuel. As you drive for a few minutes, the engine warms up, and then there's a valve that switches from diesel to vegetable oil once it reaches the proper temperature.
Under the hood, you can see some of the components of the vegetable oil system. Back here, I don't know if you could look down there. There's some brass fittings. Those are the end of the hose and side hose lines. Those lines run from the vegetable oil tank in the back of the vehicle. Next component is the vegetable oil fuel filter. This is also coolant heated, so hot radiator fluid flows through the head and down the chambers around the fuel filter element, and that keeps all the oil warm. If it was winter time, when you started your car, this would all be a solid block of oil because it would be congealed.
Fossil Free Fuels has also started to partner with other local biofuel projects. This summer, they hosted a 3-part workshop series taught by Gina Favano called Basic Mechanics and Biofuels for Women. The workshop classes covered basic mechanics, vegetable oil conversions, and building a biodiesel processor.
I got into actually SVO conversions first, and then I don't think I had ever even done an oil change before that, so I knew almost nothing about cars, which was kind of the premise behind this class, was to just kind of lay the groundwork for people that haven't been exposed to automotive mechanics before or might not have had the opportunity or encouragement to do that. The class that is happening right now is basic mechanics, and there's an overview of biofuels, we're just exploring all the really basic roadside repairs that you can do, and then also the ins and outs of internal combustion engines, just how all these different systems that work in your car all interact to make it so that you can then roll down the road.
My car has been clicking when I turn it all the way to the left. So there's a little part called a boot, which maybe you can explain that part a little bit better than I can.
I don't know, the boot just protects it's a CV boot, protects the joint. So when it makes that noise, you just inspect the boot to see if there's any cracks or leaks coming out of there.
And then in August, we're going to be offering the straight veggie oil conversion class, and we're going to be converting this truck to run on used veggie grease. And then in the fall, there'll be a biodiesel class, and we'll be building a small biodiesel processor and learning more about the safety and the chemistry of making biodiesel at home.
And Saturday and Sunday classes were both booked. I think she even had to turn people away because she didn't have enough space. And everybody just kind of hanging out, talking to the women after the classes. Everybody seems to be really excited about it, learning a lot.
This particular project, I think of it almost being as more of a gender imbalance related project or a feminist project, because within the biofuels community, the gender imbalance is just like, I mean, and the racial imbalance is like this, even greater, if you can imagine that.
I was able to be around when 2 of her classes were going on. I think it's really awesome. I know I've worked with a few women on vegetable oil or car work, and including Gina. I met her years ago, and we did a bunch of car work together. And I feel she's right. Like, oftentimes women are disenfranchised when it comes to the automotive world and even the vegetable oil world, since it's so directly related to the automotive side of things, mechanical side of things.
Oftentimes there's the assumption that the idea of having a women's class is necessary because little boys already have it together as far as mechanics are concerned. Like, they've been encouraged and taught and all these other things. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I know plenty of men who don't know their way around a car. But I think that as an adult woman trying to now, at this point in your life, learn something like mechanics, she's going to have a lot more obstacles and discouragement, and a lot of people can be really sexist and demeaning, and that in itself is enough to discourage someone from wanting to learn something. Because if you're already learning something that you've never even delved into because it's been so intimidating your entire life, and now you're trying to learn it and people are turning you away or telling you can't do it, you're probably never even going to make it to the point where you can do a veggie conversion by yourself or brew biodiesel or something like that.